Hey everyone, Justin Conroy, Financial Dad here, and today I want to dig into why consumer debt is so dangerous. I talk a lot on this channel about how and why you should pay off your consumer debts as soon as possible, and I thought it might be good to explain a little bit of the reasoning behind that logic a bit more while focusing mostly on the financial reasons. But while there are actually a lot of reasons beyond just money as to why you would want to avoid or pay off your consumer debts, for most people, staying away from or getting out of debt can be one of the biggest factors in a person's ability to grow their net worth, save money, be financially stable, have better relationships, and lead to an overall happier life. So in this video, I'll cover the 5 biggest monetary reasons why you should avoid or pay off your consumer debt as fast as possible. And with that, do me a big favor and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's get this started. First item on the list, of course, is that consumer debt costs money. This one should be blatantly obvious, but it absolutely warrants being at the top of the list because consumer debt can be one of the most expensive things that you can possibly get involved in if you're not careful. Credit cards being some of the worst cases, with interest rates ranging in the 25 to 28% range sometimes. This is a crazy amount of money that you spend. And the real issue here is that credit cards are a great example of something that make it feel as though you're not really spending extra money. You go somewhere, you swipe your card, or maybe you type in your credit card number on Amazon, for example, and it just doesn't really feel like you're spending too much money. But the reality is that if you're only paying minimum payments and you're letting that interest build up and you're carrying that rolling debt all the time, what's actually happening, and I wish most people would think about it this way, is that the items you're buying are more expensive because you're paying the interest. So let's look at an example with a credit card where maybe you're only paying the minimum payments, you're letting that balance roll over every month, your APR is about 25%, and you go out and buy a $1,000 TV on Amazon or Best Buy or whatever the case may be. And then you let that roll over and you pay off the bill very, very slowly. Well, at the end of the day, what actually happens is that TV is not $1,000. That TV ends up being almost $1,500, which is absolutely crazy. So you're paying almost 50% more money just because you're using your credit card and not paying cash, or at least paying the balance off at the end of the month. That's also a way to do this. But again, the issue is that people don't think of it like that. Let's take an example of some furniture. Let's say you go to a furniture store, you just got a brand new house, and you go out and you spend $10,000 on furniture. And they offer you a great financing rate. They're going to charge you 10% interest, and you're going to pay that off as time goes on. Well, if you do the math on that, actually that furniture is going to cost you nearly $13,000, which again is almost 30% more than your $10,000 original payment. So if you're ever considering going into consumer debt, think about the fact that it's costing you more money. Don't think of it as interest or a fee. Think of it as though you are paying more money. Would you really go out and spend $1,500 on that $1,000 TV? Would you really go out and spend $13,000 on that $10,000 furniture? Most likely, the answer is going to be no. Second reason that consumer debt is so dangerous is because it makes it very difficult to reach your financial goals. I've talked a lot about financial goals on this channel, specifically with the idea that they need to be SMART, that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But the reality is that when it comes to purchase goals in your personal finance goals, some of those things are going to be really difficult to save up for if you have to pay your debts first. And that's the real problem with consumer debt, is that you're paying someone else first and you're not allowed to pay yourself first because you owe someone else money. You get your paycheck, the government takes their cut, and then the first thing you have to do is give away a bunch of your money to your debt collectors, whoever they are. And that's a real problem because it can keep you from meeting the savings goals that you need to make all those purchase goals that are related to your personal finance. Think about, for example, if you want to save up money to put a down payment on a new home. And of course you want to save up a 20% down payment to avoid the PMI. And so you're going to do that, but that's going to take a long time depending on the value of the home and your income and how much money you can save. If you're having to give away $300 or $500 or $1,000 a month to debts, that's money that could be going towards that down payment, and that's going to delay you from actually reaching that goal. Let's take another example. If you have young kids and you want to put them into college at some point down the road, 15, 18 years from now, you're going to want to be putting money into a college fund for them now, because college, if you didn't know, is going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 for the average college in the next 18 years. This is an absurd amount of money, but what it boils down to is that you need to be able to put around $500 a month into a college fund for them now. So if you're giving away $500 a month to your credit card company or your furniture bill or whatever the case may be, that's money that is literally, you're stealing that money from your kids' future if you wanted to use that money for that purpose. So consumer debt makes it really hard to meet your financial goals, and it can really, really harm your future. Now, speaking of your future, the third reason that consumer debt is so dangerous is because it delays or even possibly prevents your retirement. And your retirement is arguably one of the most important financial goals in your entire life. Your retirement is what actually allows you to quit your job and relax and not have to work your entire life. This is such an incredibly important goal to have. And if you're giving away all your money to debts, if you're having to pay $250, $500, $1,000 a month towards debts, that's money that you're not able to put towards your retirement. And the earlier you can start putting towards your retirement, obviously, the more money that you'll have in the long run, the more it will compound over the years. Let's take, for example, if you had a debt that was $250 a month and you were able to pay that debt off. And then you took that same $250 per month and you invested that into a retirement account over the next 30 years, matching the S&P 500 at a 10% growth rate per year. That would yield you about $500,000 in the 30 years that it would take you to get there. That's a tremendous amount of money. That is a huge step forward towards your retirement. If you look at today's money, if you look at the fact that most people only need around $2 to $2.5 million to retire at the normal retirement age, this is almost there. You're 25% of the way there basically at this point. So $500,000 it only really costs you $250 a month. And that $250 a month is possibly going towards a debt. So again, you want to be able to pay yourself first. You don't want to have to be paying debt collectors. $250 a month is not much. What if you had $500? It would be even better, okay? So again, the point is, this is so dangerous because it can delay or even prevent your retirement. If you're paying debts and not able to save for retirement, you're never going to be able to retire, and that's a horrible, horrible thing. Fourth reason that consumer debt is so dangerous is because if you have a lot of consumer debt, it can actually reduce your credit score. Now that may sound a little bit counterintuitive because this whole video I've been talking about how bad consumer debt is, so why would you need a credit score? Well, your credit score is really your key to some of the larger things in life. Consumer debt itself is definitely a bad thing, but the reality is that most people, especially for larger purchases like cars or homes, you're going to need to be able to borrow money. And if you don't have a really good credit score, it can be incredibly difficult to get approved for loans for homes and cars. This is why I always say that when you're young, you need to work on getting a good credit score as soon as possible, so that by the time you're ready to buy a home, for example, you can go and apply for the loan and you can get approved and hopefully you'll have a good score. Okay, if you don't have a good score, it's going to be very difficult, very hard to get a home or even cars in some cases. Second reason that having a good credit score is so important is that not only can a bad credit score make it harder for you to get approved for a home or a car, it can actually make that home or car cost more money. People don't really think about this very much, but the difference between a good credit score and a bad credit score can be the difference of tens of thousands of dollars in interest in simply just getting a good interest rate on your loan. Let's say, for example, you're going to go after a home that's $250,000 and you have a really bad credit score. It's enough to get approved for the loan, but it's not enough to get a good interest rate. So you go in and you apply for the loan and they come back and they say, the best we're going to be able to do is 4% interest. Well, that means that you're going to be paying around $170,000 in interest over the 30-year term. Now, that's of course a lot of money. If your credit score was better, however, if it was in the 800s, you might actually be able to get an interest rate of somewhere around 3%. That would mean that over the 30 years, your total interest paid would only be about $130,000, which is a $40,000 difference. So again, a good credit score is everything. It can make it easy for you to get a home, and it can also save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run on your biggest purchases in life. So if you have a lot of debt, it can really bring down your credit score, which can really hurt you in the long run, not only with getting things, but actually having them cost more money in the end. Finally, the number 5 reason that consumer debt is so dangerous is because it supports the development of bad spending habits. Now, this is honestly one of the worst things it actually does for you. Consumer debt is so dangerous in this way. You look at your credit card and you look at that $10,000 credit line. You look at that credit line that you have with some other financial institution for your furniture or your jewelry or your clothes at the Gap or whatever the case may be. And you know, these credit lines aren't real money. And what happens is you look at these credit lines and you think to yourself, oh, no big deal. I can swipe the card, I can have this stuff, I can buy it, I can live this lifestyle that I think that I deserve or that I need, and that is a very, very dangerous thing. Spending more money than you make is the root cause of all money problems. Spending more money than you make is a very, very dangerous habit to get into because it builds the habit of living a lifestyle that you actually can't afford. And if you can't afford the lifestyle that you're accustomed to, it's extremely difficult to go back down to the lifestyle that you actually can afford. And if you can't afford the lifestyle that you're living, you're gonna have a very, very, very hard time ever getting out of debt, and you're gonna have a very, very hard time not spending all the money on interest and actually meeting your financial goals in life. So, consumer debt being so dangerous because it supports the development of those bad habits, this is honestly a huge one on the list. Don't ignore this one. This is a very, very, very big problem. Clearly, consumer debt is something that you want to avoid or pay off as soon as possible if you already have it. But how are you supposed to do that? Well, be sure and check out the playlist on the screen right now, because in those videos, I show you how to build a foolproof budget from beginning to end, because having a good budget is the first step to making sure that you can stay out of debt or pay it off faster. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.